Can you give a really detailed, tactical, step by step how you would upload a contract and what kind of questions you would ask and what type of responses you would get back, and really give us an understanding of how it accelerates your process of going through that contract?
Yeah, so there's two questions that are there. So I'll kind of break them up.
Sure.
So one is one being how to upload, and really you just kind of pick your poison. You know, which LLM do you want to work in, whether it be Chat GPT or Copilot or Claude. That's another good one. And like I said, most of these have free accounts associated with it. They also have subscriber versions that you can get a little bit more information, a little bit more horsepower behind it. But typically, it's as easy as, you'll see the little bar that you're going to chat in, you'll see the paperclip, and you click on that paperclip. And just like you would upload a file to anything, you can upload into it. Once you've uploaded that file to it, then what you want to do is give it context about, hey, make sure you're paying attention to what this is. One of the ways that I tell people about how to get started with this is, presume that this model is the most intelligent, experienced expert that you could ever come across. But even in that situation, if you were going to be talking to somebody face to face and you knew that they were an expert and you approached them in a room or on the street, whatever, you would still have to give them context about what it is the problem that you're facing or what it is that you're
All
trying
the
to accomplish
details.
with it. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're still going to
It's for
talk to them about
fancy.
that. And so, yeah, as you're talking to them about that, that's exactly the type of context that you would put inside of, your chat with the model. And so, um, kind of just basic guidelines. I mean, there's prompt engineering that's the term that's utilized for setting up your query as you're going to do to the model. People who are very good with like coding, programming, talking, et cetera, with these. There are news reports of companies paying up to 400 grand in salary for people who know how to talk to these models correctly. So for anybody listening, I'm not worth 400 grand, but I'm probably worth 75% that, no, I'm kidding. But like for just like basic bullet points in terms of how you would want to set up your requests, what you want to be detailed and you want to be specific. So, kind of something else that I tell folks is that if you're not accustomed to chatting with a machine and it feels a little weird about how personal you're getting with that machine, not personal, but personable in terms of like talking to it like you would a person, then you're probably going down the right road. So if you haven't done it before, it should feel a little weird, like I'm giving way too much detail to somebody who's not going to understand it. And what you have to accept it is that it is going to understand it. Once you put in your initial query, it'll give you back some information. Feel free to ask questions on the information that has come back to you. So ask follow-up questions, carry on a conversation with it. One of the things that you can do is ask the model to be an expert, and that sets up its framework, its um, you know, for lack of better words, state of mind on how it is trying to talk to you. And so if you're going to upload an oil and gas lease and you want to get some very specific, detailed information about it, tell it. Assume you are a landman that has been practicing in the industry for 30 years and you're extremely knowledgeable about oil and gas leases, and assume that I am somebody who is somewhat knowledgeable, but I'm trying to understand better. I used very, very natural language that is there, and that's exactly how you should talk to it. If you're asking it to draft something for you, like an email or a letter, or if you're trying to, if you're going to have a difficult phone call and you need to have like a script or prompt for you, tell it that's what you're trying to do and ask it to generate it in that way. And then one of the tips that I use a lot that I rarely see published from people is tell the model to ask you questions to be able to help the model gain clarity about what it is that you're trying to accomplish. And so oftentimes when I set up a prompt that I'm going to have in it, especially if I'm not exactly sure how to describe it and I'm not exactly sure it's going to understand everything that I'm trying to accomplish, I will include a sentence that says something to the effect of, ask me any follow-up questions that you need to for us to be able to have greater clarity and reach a resolution. And then when I do that, it'll usually fire off 4 or 5 questions to me that I may have forgotten to put in the prompt that allows me to give it additional context. And the answers, I mean, it takes the answers and insights to a whole new level when it's asking you to clarify or how to respond, et cetera. And you just go down the road of having a conversation with something that feels like a person, but is not a person. And you begin to capture some pretty incredible knowledge that way.
That's pretty interesting. That was a concept that I haven't used, or you're exactly right. You don't hear people talk about that. Hey, ask me for clarification if you're unsure. And I think that's kind of the thing that, at least when I talk to people about it, they're like, well, I don't know what it knows. And I don't know if I asked it the right thing, or I got a half answer back. And so it doesn't know everything. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So this isn't going to work. It's a great point. Good takeaway.
And that's, one of the contrasts that was brought up earlier in terms of people are going into it trying to do a Google search, and then they're like, well, this didn't answer what I was looking for. Whereas on a large language model, you may have to have 3 to 4 iterations of questions and answers back and forth just to set up the prompt. But when you do that, then it's going to be like you've got the most knowledgeable expert that you'll ever come across chatting with you and giving you insight.
I've had some experience working with myself, and a lot of times you're not going to get the exact response you want. And I've seen people stop there. It didn't work. But if you say, hey, that's not the right response. You did this. I need you to do this. It'll do it right then and there. And you can do that a couple of times and you get the perfect response back. So it's very adjustable, and it understands when it did something wrong.
Pretty adaptable.
Well, and that brings up kind of another interesting nuance, is that when you talk to a person and you're asking a person to help you out with something and it doesn't quite give you the answer, sometimes you're a little afraid to tell them that they gave you the wrong answer because you don't want to hurt their feelings, right?
Yeah.
You can't hurt its feelings.
Yeah.
Yet.
You can't hurt it yet.
Right. So even in the prompts, I see different schools of thought of people saying please and thank you and their responses that they're giving. One school of thought is it has no feelings and it doesn't care if you're saying please or thank you. The other school of thought is when they take over, you want them to remember that you were nice to them.
Exactly. Exactly.